Sure. So my name is Britta Wenzel, and I'm the Executive Director for Save Barnegat Bay. And I would like to thank everyone for joining us, taking the time out of your schedules to join us tonight. We are happy to be hosting this program in conjunction with Manchester Township and the Manchester Township Environmental Commission. Mayor Ken Palmer would have joined us, except for they have a municipal concert tonight that he was needed to be in attendance to. So we are very lucky to have Peggy Middow with us, who is the chair of the Manchester Environmental Commission. She's going to say a few words to get started. Peggy, did you want to say something?
Was this for?
Sure. So thank you all for coming all this great distance to meet with us here in Manchester. And thanks to Save Barnegat Bay Partnership and Chris from Rutgers. We have a great lineup for you tonight to talk all about rain gardens and more than rain gardens, actually. It's about green infrastructure in general. First, I just want to let you know the Environmental Commission in Manchester, this is on one of our goals this year is to provide more public education, and stormwater is particularly one of the ones we wanted to address. So thank you all for helping us out with that tonight. We meet once a month. Anybody in Manchester, anybody is welcome to come from anywhere, but particularly from Manchester. We meet on the fourth Tuesday at 5 o'clock, virtually right now, usually at the town hall. And you're welcome to come. If anyone is here who would like to be on our mailing list, please let the organizers know, and we would be happy to put you on our mailing list, or you can go to our website at the Manchester Town website and look for the Environmental Commission, and you can contact us there, and we will also be, I think we're putting up these presentations on our website if they're available. Is that correct, Karen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so thank you all for coming, and hope you get a lot of information, and we appreciate our speakers being here.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Peggy's doing a fantastic job leading the Environmental Commission in Manchester. They're a busy group over there. So again, my name is Britta Wenzel. I'm the Executive Director for Save Barnegat Bay. We have a few guests with us tonight. At first, we will be meeting we try to keep meetings to an hour so you can plan your time. Myself, Peggy, and Karen will take about 20 minutes to introduce to you the program and about Save Barnegat Bay and green infrastructure. And then followed up by us will be Karen Walter from the Barnegat Bay Partnership. She's their public outreach coordinator, and she's going to be talking about a rain garden that was built at a senior homeowners development in Manchester, which is a great presentation you'll really enjoy. And then we're very fortunate as well to have Dr. Chris Abrupta with us from Rutgers, who is essentially been the person responsible for starting a program called the Green Infrastructure Champions, of which I think we have 4 or 5 folks online who were a part of that program. And we hope to bring it to the Barnegat Bay watershed. So that's the lineup. We will stick around after the 1-hour program for any kinds of questions. You can certainly put questions that come up during the presentations in the chat box, and we'll try to get back to you either during the program or at the end. So Karen, you can go to the next slide. Karen, are you going to say a couple of words before I jump into the Save
No,
Barnegat
you can go. You can go
first.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit about Save Barnegat Bay, and this is just a quick overview to help you understand. So Barnegat Bay, if you don't know, is the largest body of water in the state of New Jersey. And it starts in a little town called Bay Head, or the head of the bay. There's lots of people walking around in Bay Head with a sweatshirt on that have no idea that's why the town's named that. And it goes essentially down the Barrier Island Strip, all the way to Seaside Heights, Island Beach State Park, the Barnegat Inlet, to the very bottom of Long Beach Island, or LBI. And so the red line that Karen's going to show you is what's called the watershed. So the bay itself fits completely inside of Ocean County. and the watershed, or the land that drains down to the bay through rivers, creeks, and streams, is composed of most of Ocean County and a little tiny bit of Monmouth County in the northern part. So why are rain gardens and rain barrels and taking care of our stormwater important? Ocean County essentially in the last 40 years was one of the fastest developing areas in the whole nation. In 40 years, we went from 180,000 people to 600,000 people. And what that essentially means is when a raindrop falls out of the sky, instead of hitting a piece of natural land like the pine barrens or sandy soils or any kind of nature, it hits a hard surface like a roof or a driveway or a sidewalk, and then ends up down a storm drain and goes to the nearest water body or river, creek, or stream, and they all basically lead to Barnegat Bay. And with that stormwater, it carries all kinds of pollutants, everything that we're putting on our yards, from pesticides to herbicides, fertilizers, soaps, dog dirt, any kind of pollution like that is carried to the bay. So what we're trying to do is look for smarter solutions so we can continue to live here in harmony with nature, to keep our roads from flooding, and allow green infrastructure to reabsorb the stormwater. So if you go to our website, you'll see this history of Save Barnegat Bay. Next year, our organization will be 50 years old, which is amazing for a citizen group. We have a lot of success stories, which Karen's pointing out here. You can go to our website, click on any one of these stars. Most of them relate to beating overdevelopment projects and then conveying the land to a public agency. That one happened to be Oyster Creek Nuclear Generating Station, which we helped to close. Also outlines sort of the history, the fight to save the bay, some of the present day problems, and then of course how you can get involved. So we're hoping that you'll learn a lot tonight through this program about the pollution sources, what you can do about it, and how you can help your community. It could be your spiritual institution, it could be your school organization, it can be your town, your homeowners association. Everyone can get involved. And so a real quick glimpse, what I call real talk. People often ask, how is the bay doing? And this is my cheat sheet for what I call real talk. So essentially, there's a major environmental law called the Clean Water Act.
Don't lay it out.
Somebody's got to mute. The Clean Water Act requires the state of New Jersey to report on the quality of water in the state every 2 years. And I know this chart is kind of small, but what I'm asking you to look at is, thank you, Karen. These are the various segments of the watershed that are reported on over a period of 2012, where Karen's showing you with the cursor on the left, to 2013 in the middle, then 2014 the following year. Now we're just going to focus on those three for a moment. If you take your eyes quickly and glance across the three, you'll notice that as you head to the right or further down the calendar, more areas are red. Red means that they do not support aquatic life. Yellow means insufficient data, and green means fully supporting. So essentially, as our watershed becomes more and more developed, the water bodies are negatively impacted. And that's the rivers, the creeks, the streams, and of course, Barnegat Bay, and also the Atlantic Ocean. And so on your right, the sort of different looking map is based on the 2016 reports to the federal government. It's not a complete map. You'll notice some of the segments are not colored. So we're working on, with the Department of Environmental Protection and the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, both the state and federal government, to collect the data to give you an accurate report. So essentially the bay is still declining in water quality. There are improvements in areas, but there's still major problems facing the bay. And so we created a poll. I'm not sure how the poll shows up, Karen.
I think I can launch it now. So you can talk while I launch it.
Okay, so we created a poll to ask you whether or not if Save Barnegat Bay, that sort of last slide, the fourth slide, created a map for you to be able to look at online and see if a project's happening in your town or nearby you, any projects being proposed, the development is being proposed, a grocery store is being proposed, whatever it might be. You could go to the map and you could see where that project is and how the water quality is nearby that proposed project.
Well,
The
it looks
idea
like
is-
everybody says 100% of our questions. They're
Oh,
just,
that was quick.
they're still answering. They're like answering it. So I guess they could see it.
Okay. So we are working on that, and we're hoping that it'll be a useful tool to the public. And I think that's it for me. I really just wanted to give you an overview of who Save Barnegat Bay is. We are the original citizen movement. We're about to turn 50, which is amazing. And we exist on 99.9% donations from small families and small businesses locally. So we're still here and we're still putting up a good fight. You can check all those things out on our website. And next I'll introduce Karen, who's one of our board members. And she also happens to live in Manchester Township. She's working very closely with the township, mayor, council, planning board, zoning board, environmental commission to integrate protections for Barnegat Bay. Go ahead, Karen.
So I thought we'd start with, hi everybody, with a short video, and I'll kind of speed it along so that everybody knows what we're talking about when we talk about green infrastructure. I can leave this poll on for a little while more
A rain
longer.
garden is a shallow depressed area that's planted with native plants. And when the water comes in, it gets filtered down into the groundwater. You're going to want to make sure that the plants in your rain gardens will also tolerate those dry situations.
Madeline Flahaud DiNardo is in luck. The skies have opened. The weather has cooperated beautifully with her rain garden demonstration for landscapers and gardeners. 24 hours earlier, it was a different scenario.
What we're doing here today is preparing the site for our demonstration. We're here at the Gloucester County 4-H Fairgrounds located in Mullica Hill, New Jersey. And while it's very early spring now and there's not much happening, come summertime, this place will be bustling with activity with the county fair and other events that happen here. And a lot of people will enjoy our new demonstration rain garden.
Madeline and her cooperative extension colleagues at Rutgers University, Virginia Tech, and Cornell University are using a USDA grant to show the benefits of rain gardens for businesses and backyards. Along with being aesthetically pleasing and attractive to birds and beneficial insects, the gardens help with controlling a major environmental problem, non-point source pollution.
That could be just simple dirt and grime on a rooftop, motor oil on a street situation, or if there's excess fertilizer or pesticide in, say, a lawn situation. Runoff water is contaminated with all that, and the idea of the rain garden captures it and gets it filtered out of the water before it goes back to groundwater.
Rain gardens also prevent excessive runoff from flooding storm drains and from polluting fisheries and other aquatic ecosystems. At the fairgrounds, the team has chosen a site near the concession stand with adequate drainage, a key factor in the garden's placement. After ensuring clearance of utility lines, they connect the downspout from the roof to an entry point in the garden.
What we're trying to do is create a ponding area for the water to settle into. So because we're dealing with the sloped area, the bottom slope will have a berm on the end of it because that'll help retain some of the water.
Next, the garden is outlined, shaped, and graded.
And then we will backfill it with a sand and topsoil mixture to help with the drainage. And then we'll put in the plants, and all the plants are native plants that are suitable to this area. Native plants are more able to adapt to the wet and dry conditions that you're going to find in a rain garden, because your rain garden should drain after a couple of hours.
On day 2, help arrives, and the fun begins. These landscaping professionals and master gardeners are here for the final part of a training course, and they play an important role in the project. First, by helping to complete this garden, then by using their new skills to create rain gardens in their communities.
there's a big need for it because we have to stop putting all the roof runoff and the street runoff into the streams and the rivers that wind up in the ocean.
I think it was great to see that we are getting more in tune with what we need to do when it comes to water management. And this is a sustainable way to do it. And at the same time, enhances the beauty of any property.
Right now, we're running into situations where municipalities and even our state is mandating water recharge. So it fits in with the green initiative that's sweeping in the country in general, I believe, and gives us the knowledge base to be able to say that we are competent suppliers of this service.
The graduates of the Rutgers course will continue to help with the project.
On a residential property can treat 25 feet, 1 million gallons of water.
Okay, let's see. How do I get out of here? Okay, I'm out of here. Sorry, folks. So I was supposed to talk about green infrastructure. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. And I think they described how it works. And so the idea is that when we talk about green infrastructure, which is kind of like a weird word for the public to understand, it's just a way of looking at nature and copying what nature did so that we could do things in a more natural way with the native plants, and also, you know, capturing the rain where it falls, as opposed to the old-fashioned idea of grabbing the water and at the bottom of the hill, and then you have this big gigantic puddle that you can't really figure out what to do with when it gets there. So we still end up with a lot of flooding. And so here's a quick, I'll go through this quick. This was the storm of Monday. This was like an unbelievable storm. And as you can see, the water is like mostly on the asphalt. You know, the tree is taking in a lot. There's lightning, there was thunder, like we couldn't even believe what was going on. It was like, you know, something crazy. Oops. What is that? I don't know what that is. Okay. Anyhow, what we did get was we got
Of each and every week.
Oh.
That makes sense? Did I articulate that right? First graders will come to school every
You have to
day.
go to the single issue meeting, yeah. And it's,
Oh, I don't know how that happened. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we would normally get in July about 3.78 inches. We got 1.5 inches just on Monday night itself. And so, you know, it's a lot of rain. It goes, the amount of rain that we got in the first 45 minutes of the storm, if you all were here, was the same amount that a design is used in New Jersey to design how you capture storm water. So what happens when you have that? It's supposed to capture 1 1/4 inches in 24 hours, and it happens in 45 minutes. You get flooding. So we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. So we could go with the next segment, which is, let me see if I can stop sharing and put in Karen's presentation.
Karen, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right.
Just tell me when
The other Karen will click for you when you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so Karen Walzer. Britta introduced me before. I'm the public outreach coordinator for the Barnegat Bay Partnership. And we, back in 2013, received a grant from New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to develop this website, Jersey Friendly Yards. So it's pretty much what Karen was referring to. It has to do with green infrastructure, how to work with nature, mimic nature, use those natural practices in order to landscape for a healthier environment in New Jersey. Next, please. So just a quick explanation of where I work, Barnegat Bay Partnership. It's one of the 28 national estuary programs in the United States. And here in New Jersey, we're actually quite lucky. For a small state, we have a total of 3 national programs. So besides Barnegat Bay Partnership, we have the Delaware Estuary Program, and we have the New York, New Jersey Harbor Program. So the way the estuary programs work, It's a partnership, a collaboration of all the organizations who are working towards the same goal. So for Barnegat Bay Partnership, we're working for clean water and healthy habitat for wildlife in the bay itself, but of course also in the watershed, the land that's draining to the bay. Next, please. So really it boils down to, do we want clean water or do we want green water? So I think pretty much 100% of us would say we want clean water for swimming, for kayaking, for fishing, and of course for drinking. Now, we do have issues in New Jersey and actually throughout the United States with nutrient pollution. So the nitrogen and phosphorus in fertilizers ends up as non-point source pollution that's going into our waterways, and you can see the result on the right. So it actually fuels the growth of algae and aquatic plants in our waterways. If you remember last summer in 2019, we had some issues with toxic algal blooms in some lakes in New Jersey, Lake Hopatcong, and we're not immune to it ourselves. So the picture on the bottom is actually a photo of algae growth in the Barnegat Bay. So it's definitely an issue in the bay too. Next, please. So what we're asking as Barnegat Bay Partnership, and I'm sure Save Barnegat Bay would totally agree, we want to rethink the lawn. Save Barnegat Bay, by the way, is one of our partner organizations. So we all have that same goal. So we want to rethink the lawn. And why? Because in the United States, it's our biggest crop. There's a total of 40 million acres of lawn in the US. Much of that's being fertilized, treated with pesticides. It's a major source of pollution is those nutrients in the fertilizers. Also, lawns are basically wildlife deserts. You know, it's a monoculture. You just have turf grass, and you don't have all the different plants that you find in nature that support wildlife. Next, please. So I think the other Karen had a quick slide of this as well, or a quick image of this. This is a really famous poster. It's just showing you how deep native plant roots can go. Several feet down, as opposed to on the very left, you can see those little short roots. They are turfgrass roots. So they might go down 3-4 inches, maybe up to 6 inches, as opposed to several feet with native plants. So what those roots are doing is helping to channel the stormwater, the rainwater that hits the ground back into the soil. The microbes in the soil help to clean it. It's getting back down into the aquifer, replenishing our drinking water supplies. So those deep roots are super important. And they also, of course, help to uptake some of those nutrients for their own growth. Next, please. So for us, native plants are very important. You know, that's what's being used in rain gardens for a reason. They thrive in our local soils and climate. They help us conserve water because they really don't need a lot of fertilizing or treatment with pesticides because they're so well adapted. And another very important aspect of that is they provide habitat for our wildlife. Next, please. All right, so with that as a background, so we developed the website. You know, we're all on board with green infrastructure. It's very important for our watershed. So we ended up doing a project at Holiday City, Berkeley in Toms River. Now you can see the map on the right. There actually are 3 streams flowing right through that development, surrounded by all those houses and yards. The one on the top is Sunken Branch. The one in the middle is Wrangle Brook. And the one at the very, very bottom of the development is the Davenport branch. So the Homeowners Association, they wanted to take action because in these waterways, particularly in the areas that kind of widened out, they call them lakes, even though they're really part of the stream. It's a former cranberry bog. They were choked with algae, aquatic plants. Residents were complaining, so they wanted to try to do something about that. So it was a 2-pronged project. First, they converted the lawn in front of the clubhouse to a native plant garden to capture the runoff coming off the roof of the clubhouse. It also solved another problem in that water in the winter that was coming from the downspouts was staying on the walkways being used by the residents and freezing and causing ice problems. So the downspouts were channelized into the ground, leading to a series of emitters that help to water some of the new native plants that were put in. That was part of the project too. The second part was to establish a protective buffer of native plants along the shoreline of the Sunken Branch, which is that middle one. And next, please. I'll show you some better photos of everything. So we had Native Designs and the Little Plant Company. Those two were the contractors working on this. So of course, here's just a shot showing you the typical lawn, lush lawn. There was irrigation in there that they had, and they were fertilizing it too to keep it looking that way. So the storm water from the clubhouse ended up, and you can actually see in the middle left, there's the storm drain right there in the parking lot. So everything was heading down the storm drains to the Wrangell Brook, which was just 50 feet behind the clubhouse. So the first step was to remove the lawn. Next, please. And just another shot of the site prep, removing the lawn. And after they did that, they kind of laid out their design where the different plants were going and the walkways, because a big part of this was to make it accessible to the residents so that they could walk through it, enjoy, learn about the native plants, sort of an educational part of the whole project. Next, please. Then the planting occurred in the sort of the end of the summer, early fall of 2016. Next, please. This is what it looked like the following spring in 2017. Things are starting to come up. Lots of open space between them, but that doesn't last very long. Next, please. So then you can see by the summer of 2018, everything's growing really nicely. There were gravel walkways at first, but the homeowners association, they just were so thrilled with this garden that they put in a paver walkway. It's kind of 90% done there in that photo. And everything just thrived in here. And even though they had irrigation, which they used that first year, they don't need to use it anymore. So it's been fantastic for them and they love it. And I don't have a photo of it, but we actually put in an educational sign in there too for the residents. Next, please. All right, part 2 of the project. So that was to try to establish a buffer of native plants on the shoreline of the Sunken Branch. So that's a close-up look. You can see all those houses, their backyards, abut that area of the Sunken Branch. It was one of those areas I said they call the lake because it is so wide there. Next, please. So this is what it looked like pre-project. All right, so they were mowing down to the water's edge. There is a kind of a fence. Different people, would put docks, which you're really not supposed to do, and other things, to enjoy the water at the edge of their property. But it was easy, overall, really easy access for geese to get up onto the shoreline there, onto the residents' lawns, and they were leaving a lot of droppings. It was like a minefield out there. And of course, they were also fertilizing their lawns, and all of this is being carried into the Sunken Branch every time it rained. Next, please. So it was kind of interesting. So Jason Austin of the Little Plant Company, we met with him. We walked along the edge. We at first thought we would have to do plantings, but Jason started pointing out there's a native plant coming up, trying to come up. It's getting mowed down. I think all we need to do is establish a no-mow zone and they'll just come, they'll just come in. And he was totally right. That's what happened. So the Homeowners Association has, a contract with a mowing company. So, it took a little while to get the message through, and also some homeowners, even though the mowing company was leaving the buffer, they came in with their own mower because they wanted their access to the water. But over time, the buffer grew with the native plants coming in. The only maintenance that was involved with Jason would go through and take out some of the invasive plants that were coming in as well.
5 minutes.
Okay. And also the great thing about this buffer is it discouraged geese from coming up on the land. Okay, next. Okay, so so the website, again, it's a great resource. We have 8 steps to Jersey Friendly Yard. It's for homeowners to use. It's for organizations to use. Next, please. I did want to show you this because I just think it's really great. And also a shout out and a thank you to Chris Abrupta and the Rutgers Water Program. Chris Perez actually designed this interactive yard for us. So it's a great way to get all kinds of ideas of what you can do in your yard, at your homeowners, you know, at your clubhouse, wherever it is, how to remove, impervious pavement and replace it, invasive plants and add beds. Next, please. I know I'm talking fast, but so that was the before. This is the after. If you go through all the steps in the interactive yard, really gives you a lot of ideas. And the one thing I want to point out is you can see the location of a lot of these planting beds. They circle the periphery of the property. That's the great place to put it to capture that stormwater runoff. This design leaves some lawn in because people do want lawn for certain, uses, but you don't need all that lawn. So cut it back, do a lot of planting on the edges. Next, please. By doing that, you're going to capture a lot of that stormwater and really reduce the pollution that's heading to our waterways. Next, please. One last plug. If you go to the website, there's a fantastic searchable plant database, which is really helpful for when you're designing a project. Check it out, jerseyyards.org. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
You made it.
Did I make it in time?
Yes. A lot of content for a quick.
Yeah, I packed it in and I talked fast. Sorry about that.
No, you did a great job. I think it's super useful information, and you'll be able to stick around for some questions.
Of course. Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Next up is Chris. Karen, you're going to put his.
Yeah.
We try to fit a lot into an hour.
Yeah, I could see that. You guys are pretty amazing here.
And if you hear the bell, that means your time is up.
Hopefully, I joke around and say that these are first dates, and the idea is we kind of get to know each other, and then we can, go on a second date, meaning get to know each other even better and work on these two projects together. Go ahead.
So I do have my main hat on. It's Acadia though. It's not. So my name's Chris Abrupta. I'm with Rutgers Cooperative Extension Service. Karen, you go to the next slide. Cooperative Extension Service has been around for about 100 years, mostly helping farmers deal with problems. I've been at Rutgers for 17 years. I mostly work in urban and suburban areas and dealing with stormwater issues. The next slide has our mission statement on it. Lots of buzzwords in there. And basically what that means is my job is to run around the state and help people solve their water problems. I've got a full-time staff of 8 people, engineers, landscape architects, environmental scientists, planners, all being paid off of grant funding. My salary is being covered by the university, at least for now. I don't know what's going to happen with this COVID stuff, but anyway, but we're still working now. We're building rain gardens this summer, doing planting this summer. We're really kind of plowing forward. The next slide actually shows something I think Britta was talking about earlier. And we talked a little bit about stormwater runoff, in relation to impervious cover. So, the houses that you just saw Karen show you, the small lots, you're getting about 30 to 40% runoff on an annual basis from those areas. A natural condition, you get about 10% runoff. So, we're talking about green stormwater infrastructure or green infrastructure, and we try to use that to take that 30% and make it 10%. So, next slide. So, one thing we've been doing, and we've been running around the state doing this, and we've been working for towns and developing these impervious cover assessments. And you can see the next slide after this, Karen, is actually gives a little description of that. We use DEP land use data. We calculate runoff volumes, not just how many inches of rain runs off, but how many gallons of water runs off. And you can see in some of the slides going forward, you get the next slide. We have the land use. So this is Manchester Township. I just figured out today that little hole in Manchester, that's Lakehurst. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was just looking at this and said, wait a minute, what's that hole? I realized Lakehurst was in the middle of Manchester Town.
They succeeded many, many years ago.
So we used the red to show urban area, right? And the next slide will show you the basic breakdown of the land use. Manchester, about 17.6%.
Yeah, that's 17.
A lot of forest land still. The next slide will show you the breakdown of urban. So when we talk about urban, this is what we're talking about: medium density residential, low density residential, high density residential, commercial. So this is kind of distribution of what we have in those developed areas in Manchester Township. Okay, so be good. So this is actually shows in Manchester we've got a lot of different sub watersheds. So each of these colorful figures here is a different tributary that drains to a different location. So when we do our analysis, we do it by sub watershed. And the next slide will show you the breakdown of, the red line actually is interesting because to the right of the red line goes to the Barnegat Bay, to the left of the red line goes to the Delaware River, and the William Penn Foundation paid for part of that along with New Jersey Sea Grant. And that was, thank God, we had a piece going to the Delaware River so they could pay for this. So it was really, really nice that we were able to get the William Penn Foundation to pay for this for you guys. So go ahead. So,
Thank you.
So we break down the impervious cover, total acres of each subwatershed and impervious surfaces. And you can see I included the ones here that have high impervious cover in it. Once you get beyond 10% impervious cover, your waterways start becoming impaired. But that really doesn't tell you the whole story. As little as 2% impervious cover, you start seeing impacts to your waterways. And once you get beyond 25% impervious cover, which is a lot of what Tom's River is, your waterways are completely degraded and are very hard to restore. The next slide will show you how much water runs off of these impervious surfaces. Karen talked earlier about the New Jersey water quality storm, an inch and a quarter of rain over 2 hours, actually not 24. So that storm that you had, on Monday would have been the water quality storm, but meant to represent a big thunderstorm in New Jersey. So the water quality storm will generate, and we can see in here the total volume of water at the bottom of how much water runs off. It's kind of, I guess people can't see the bottom of the slide, but as you go down, you can see this is a million gallons of stormwater, right? So we have the annual rainfall of 44 inches, 2-year, 10-year, 100-year. This is how much water runs off of just the impervious surfaces in these sub-watersheds in this township. Next slide. Okay, so we're trying to also figure out where can we put solutions, right? So now we know Manchester has a lot of impervious surfaces in different areas of the town. Where can we actually go in and retrofit them with green infrastructure? So these are some of the places we look at. We love looking at schools because you got kids, you can educate them, and you can get them to work. The next slide will tell you this is what we wind up doing is we identify projects. Okay, so you can see the projects are clustered in the areas where those red areas where development is. So here we identify 15 projects. They're listed on the right-hand side. We can go through for each project. You can hit the button there, Karen. We have an information sheet. So this is the one for the library. It talks about how much impervious cover there is, what the practices are being recommended. And the next slide actually shows you an aerial photograph of the library of where we're recommending things to be. Okay, so what we've done is we've actually gone out and we've driven to the site. We looked at the library and we've identified these 4 green spots as great spots for rain gardens. Now, is that the only place to put rain gardens at the library? No, of course not. We identified right off the bat that would be great to start with. We can go to the library and probably even put more rain gardens there if we wanted to. And you can see the orange spot in the upper left-hand corner is where we're recommending pervious pavement. So like a porous asphalt to take the stormwater runoff from that piece of the driveway or the parking lot. So next slide will show you, we do this for a couple different things. I only included a few in here. We did the veterinarian clinic. Next slide will show you what we're recommending for the veterinarian clinic. Here, once again, planter boxes, some rain gardens. And the next slide will actually show you we do have some renderings. So this is the before picture. You click the button and this would be the after picture. This is what the rain garden would look like. We use this to try to encourage people to let us put the projects in the ground. So each of the plans that we do have about 3 of these in there. So you can go to the next slide. The next one will show another project site. Well, you're going like the wrong way. Wait, where are you going?
I know. Okay. All right.
One more. There you go. So this is a church. We like churches because a lot of the scouts want to do projects, right? So they need an Eagle Scout project. The Girl Scout needs a Gold Award project. And a lot of projects can be done at the local church, and a lot of them can be rain gardens. So we do rain gardens at churches. We can also do porous asphalt at churches or cisterns. You can click the next slide, Karen, and you can see what we proposed here. So here we proposed a couple rain gardens, a big one where she's at, a smaller one there, a couple areas of impervious of porous asphalt. And the next slide will show you, we may actually have a rendering in here. So this is the before picture, and you click it again, it's the after picture. And so we basically taken the parking spaces and converting them to porous asphalt. So the water goes right through the asphalt into a stone layer underneath and slowly percolates into the ground. Great system to be used throughout New Jersey. I'm not sure why all parking lots aren't like that. So this is the last piece of it. For the township, we actually do what's called a web map, right? So we have a map here that shows all the sites on it. So this is online. If you want, you can get the link from me and you go to this on our Rutgers website. You can click on one of these dots or the picture on the left-hand side, and you can click the button, Karen, I'll take you to what that looks like. So this will pop up, and you click on download the report, and that report, those 2 pages I just showed you, would actually come up as the report. So these are kind of final thoughts for this. And we think a lot about planning. I know the Barnegat Bay folks are branching out into doing some watershed restoration plans. I used to do a lot of those plans when I was at Rutgers. The plans would take 2 to 4 years to do. They would cost $200,000 to $400,000 to complete, wildly expensive. And by the end of the process, a lot of people were thinking that, they were just tired of the process and nothing was getting done. So we came up with this rapid process. We can do a plan for a town in 2 to 4 months instead of 2 to 4 years. And it costs on average about $15,000 to do the plans for the town. And now you have projects ready to go into the ground, right? And the idea is quickly you can design these projects. All those projects I showed you in that figure, those rain gardens, they're sized. You're not very far from being able to get an engineering drawing. We've actually done the calculation to figure out, are those the right size? Will they fit in that site? So we've actually done a lot of that work already. So we've done the preliminary calculation. So it becomes really nice. You do these plans, what it is, it's an impervious cover assessment. We call it an impervious cover reduction action plan. Sustainable Jersey calls it a green infrastructure action plan. And then we call it a green infrastructure feasibility study. And I'm sorry, Sustainable Jersey calls it a green infrastructure strategic plan. So to do all 3 of these plans costs us about $15,000, and it gets the town 20 points to the Sustainable Jersey certification. We like this because it actually identifies sites where projects go on the ground right away. These become conduits for funding. I had DEP give us $1 million up in the Raritan watershed to begin implementing projects that we've done in plans for 50 towns within the watershed. We love them because all size projects, Eagle Scout projects, Girl Scout projects here for their Gold Award. We know eventually someone's going to screw up the economy. There's going to be stimulus money available. These projects are virtually shovel ready, so we've got a lot of opportunities there. There's a lot of discussion right now about doing stormwater utilities, and now you've got a list of projects that can go on the ground. The other thing we're trying to do with this, actually doing this in the Highlands, is we're taking plans from adjacent towns and we're putting the water sub-watersheds together. So if you have Toms River there's 5 different towns, we would take the plans for the entire Toms River and put all the projects. You can look at it on a watershed scale, not just a municipal scale. So that kind of feeds into your watershed restoration plans. A big part of the watershed restoration plans is identifying projects where things can go in the ground right away. So this fits in very nicely with that. And I think that's it. That's my time, 15 minutes. Was it good?
You're good.
I didn't hear a beep.
You ended early, so we actually have some time here. We have 15 minutes for questions, and
She usually does have a bell, Chris.
I'm sorry. I talk really fast too. I'm sorry about that, but I've been drinking a lot of diet soda, so I'm a little cranked up right now. So
No, it was a great presentation. We do have some questions that came in on the chat as well.
Okay.
I think you fairly well answered at least one of them, which was, how much does this kind of work cost? And the person who was asking happened to be from Ocean Gate. Does the the price vary, for example, if the town is bigger or smaller, or the work is the same?
The price is pretty much a standard price, but we do have some funding from other places. So, for example, Hamilton Township had contacted me, and Atlantic County had contacted me earlier in the week, and they want to do these plans so they can get their Sustainable Jersey points. So they want to go after one of those $10,000 grants. And I said, well, if you get the $10,000 grants, I'll match it with $5,000 that I have from New Jersey Sea Grant that funds me. So it'd be cheaper for them to do it, just to get them going. And because they asked, a lot of times there's funding available. You just have to ask, and that's really interesting. So a lot of times we'll do these for less money, and we'll use some matching funds that we have either from New Jersey Sea Grant, the Dodge Foundation, the William Penn Foundation, or even the New Jersey Agriculture Experiment Station, which Cooperative Extension is under. So
we agree with you. In fact, internally at Save Barnegat Bay, we've talked about the fact that why don't we just ask our 37 towns because of the commitment level. And
Right.
you do have Helen here, who's from Lakehurst, saying, since they're in the donut hole of Manchester, would something be worked out there to include them basically as a part of this larger project?
So I wish I would have known that ahead of time, because I could have done Lakehurst at the same time. Because when we send people, because we have to send people out to see all these sites. That's the big expense, The mapping, everything is not too expensive, but then the graphics becomes another piece of putting it into a format. The final document, this green infrastructure feasibility study or strategic plan, we incorporate everything from our green infrastructure guidance manual in there. So you have a whole chapter on all the different green infrastructure practices, what a rain garden is, what pervious pavement is. So your mayor can pick that up and look at that document, see everything he needs to know about green infrastructure in one document, and has 10 to 15 to 20 sites in there where you can actually apply it. This is also meant to be a living document. So, when Manchester grabs this and starts putting projects in the ground, somebody eventually is going to say, you did the Presbyterian church, but you didn't do the Catholic church. What do you have against Catholics? That, And so what will happen is we'll go out and add that to the plan, or we'll train folks like yourself, like our green infrastructure champions for training, and they can go out and identify a site and add this stuff to plans. So the idea is to keep adding to this, having more projects. We know eventually there's going to have to be an infrastructure act coming out of Washington with some funding. It'd be nice to have some stormwater projects ready to go in the ground when that gets authorized. So, what else?
That's great. I think you also have Helen saying that's great. I think, Chris, I don't know if you can see the chat.
I can see some of it. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Measure, she's saying that, maybe she would go out and take pictures. Anyway, we can connect you. And then also Jackson joined the call. Denise Garner, who's very active in Jackson, she's saying how helpful that would be in terms of their master planning. And there's a ton of big development happening in Jackson. And it's right over top of our water supply.
I think Steve Urjo is out of our Ocean County office. He's one of our county agents. I think he's working with Jackson a little bit. So he may already be doing some of this stuff there. If we do have a green infrastructure champion, we will work with that person. That'll reduce the price of doing this. So that's another aspect of this. So take the champion course, get trained, and we'll help you develop one of these plans. It'll be a lot cheaper. Like I said, my entire staff is grant funded. I do have students who help with this over the summer. Normally we hire 10 full-time undergrad students for the summer. This year, they would not allow us to run our student intern program because of COVID.
Right.
So now I've got 8 full-time staff and 4 part-time staff trying to do the work of those 10 students that we normally would have hired.
Right.
So it's been kind of hectic. I don't know if I'm coming or going. I think it is Wednesday, right? Okay, so I'm not sure half the time what day of week it is.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. Looks like you have several folks would be interested in taking the courses for the green infrastructure champions. Are super excited about that.
Right.
Which
So I
is
think it looks like we might have money from the William Penn Foundation to offer it in South Jersey. So it would be west of where you guys are. But right now, what we're trying to do is, the real South Jersey, not Trenton, but
I'm going to say we're Central Jersey. We consider ourselves.
Yeah, down far south.
Right.
County, those places like that. So it has to be on the Delaware River side of the state. So So we do that there, but what we're thinking now is we might offer some of the courses in person, but also online. When we did it at Duke Farms this year, we had seats for 40 people and we limited it. And then after the third class, COVID hit and we had to do everything remotely. So the last 6 classes we had, we opened it up to anybody who wanted to come, and we made it free because we didn't have to limit seating. And we had, we went from being 40 people showing up in person to 150 people showing up online, taking it from the convenience of their home. You do have to worry about what you have a little bit here today is the noise in the background, and I got a whole recipe for chicken noodle soup from somebody's grandmother yelling at their daughter on how to make it one time, but it's a whole nother story. So, but yeah, so hopefully we'll be offering this again in January of 2021, maybe a little sooner. We're not sure yet. So
I got a couple more items. That sounds great. One thought that someone has is, what if, for example, just as a hypothetical, that if we don't have such a heavy overtone of anti-development, do you think there would be any possibility, for example, to incentivize developers to include this as a part of their stormwater planning? So in other words, they might absorb the cost.
Well, they just passed new stormwater regulations in New Jersey, and any new development that goes in after March of 2021 will have to have green infrastructure. So they're going to have to include these components in their design. So, I feel bad for Denise because, all the stuff that was going on in Jackson would have had to include a lot of this stuff, and they would have been better designs because of that. They may not have been able to cut down so many trees. But getting developers to pay, improvement fees. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a planner, but I know some towns do that, and say, if you're going to do a project in our town, you have to pay this extra stormwater fee, and then they put that to things like this. So that might be a way of doing this. And it's not a lot of money. I mean, I don't pay my guys a lot. We're not consultants, we're not CDM or Metcalf and Eddy, one of those big consulting companies. We don't have any profit that we make. We pay people their hourly wage and some benefit money. And Rutgers only takes about 10% off the top of any municipal work we do. So it's not too bad. The federal work, they take about 55% off the top, but for like town or the state, they only take 10%. So it's not too bad. And it's a pretty reasonable cost. And you get a really, really nice product. I mean, more importantly, this product is intended for people like, Karen and Britta and all the green infrastructure champions to take it and use it and say, wait, we've got these ideas for projects. Let's get these in the ground. Let's work on this. Let's get money from this person, that person, whatever it takes, or get the public works guys to dig it out. Plants are cheap. It's really the digging it out that's expensive, So you can get a public works guy out there with a backhoe for a day. Those guys are amazing what they can do, and they have no idea what they're building, but after a couple hours, they figure it out and they start helping you design it as you're building it, redesign it to make it easier for them to dig. But, it becomes a great thing, and then they know how to do it. I was in Hillsborough today. The guy, the head of public works said, he wants to put another rain garden in, and 2 years ago, he didn't even know what a rain garden was. And now he wants to use it to fix a flooding problem that he has. And it's just like amazing. He understood the concept. He knows his guys can build it. So it's getting pretty exciting like that. So
that is really exciting. And we tend to work well with municipalities and public works and things like that. Our folks are very involved in their communities. So you're getting huge fans online here and people who want to sign up and get their towns going. And let's see what else I'm missing. Oh, Peggy, who's the chair of the Environmental Commission, would like to know, if and when you're going to present the plan to the township or one of the bodies there. Or...
Well, I mean, it's something I like to do in person, which I was hoping we might be able to do in September, but the way things are going these days, I'm not sure,
Do they know that you did this? Do they know the plan exists?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who knows the plan exists. I know there's some Environmental Commission people who might know it exists. But we had done this and shared it already with, I don't know, who was the group we spoke to a few weeks ago, Karen? Was that the Barnegat Bay, the Stormwater Committee?
Oh, the Stormwater, the working group, right.
Working group for Stormwater.
That's the Barnegat Bay Partnership.
Partnership, yeah. So we spoke to them about it. So, the process usually is we'll reach out to the Environmental Commission or Green Team and say, hey, we've done this, you know, and we'd love to come present it to you and get their input on it, maybe add some more sites, but more importantly, figure out what help you need to kind of move this forward, get stuff in the ground.
That's you, Peggy. Lead.
Resources.
Yeah,
So-
no, my question is, so can we share it with the green team and start sharing
Yes,
it
you
with
can.
people?
It's
Can we
actually
share it
it's actually
tonight?
online. If you
Right.
you send me an email, I'll help you find it online. It's
I can send it to her. I'll
you
send it to her.
send the link. That's fine.
Right.
It's all online. You can download the whole thing. If you want to get your sustainable Jersey points for this, though, there's a couple things you have to add to the plans because they weren't written to get sustainable Jersey points. They were written based on the protocol that we had developed. So in transitioning it from what we've done to sustainable Jersey points, it's a pages of text. It's not a big deal. And we have that text available. We can share that with people.
And then my one other question is, the first thing people are going to ask is, how much does it cost to maintain it?
It depends what you build.
What is the
you know?
maintenance?
I mean, so for a rain garden, maintenance is fairly simple. The first year you build it, you're going to have to water it and make sure to help plants survive. You'll have to weed it occasionally. Every year you're supposed to replace the mulch, take the mulch out, put new mulch in. Most people just add mulch where they need it. Sometimes you're adding more plants. Sometimes you're separating plants and thinning them out. So it's just like any garden would be. The average rain garden for an individual home is about 150 square feet, about 100 to 200 square feet in size, usually 6 inches deep. Most of those are dug out by hand. The video you showed earlier, Madeline DiNardo, she works a lot with me. She's the Union County agent who was in that video, and we were on that project actually. That was dug out with a tractor, but most of these things are dug out by hand because they're small enough to do that. So it's not a big deal. But really the maintenance is very, very minimal. You know, people get all excited about that, you know, the maintenance. Like, you know, it's not too bad. A couple hours here, a couple hours there, and you're done. You know, so the trick with the maintenance is you just got to keep up with it. You know, garden that wasn't maintained for 10 years and they called us up, could you help us do a maintenance day on this? You went out there, the whole thing had to be replanted. It was destroyed. You know, just completely over. It was working fine, but it was completely overgrown with weeds, you know. So we wound up digging the whole thing out, replanting it. But if you keep up on it, it's not a problem, you know, like any kind of garden, you know. The other issue is deer. I guess that's also an issue in your area.
Big issue.
Yeah, so our policy would.
Lavender's a native plant. They don't like the lavender.
Yeah, so the policy with deer, I mean, our recommendation is everybody should buy an SUV and drive very fast at night on back roads, because not only does it take care of the deer, it also stimulates the car repair economy in the state. No, there are certain sprays that we've used that actually work very well. A lot of the base of the spray is coyote urine, and a lot of times you could spray it, and after maybe not after rain you got on Monday, you might have to respray, but usually after normal rain you don't have to respray. You know, so you spray a few times a year, and usually that works out fine. So. Okay, I know you're coming on your time. Is there anything else you need from me, or?
Exactly. No, this is about it. I think you all did great, you know, the time frames. And we will follow up and share your contact information and the links and the recording with everyone who participated. Chris, I will say in defense of Chris, he's in high demand everywhere in the state. So if you do, our colleagues and friends, if you do reach out and don't hear back from him, give him a pass and send us an email or something. And
well, Britta, you know, if you do send out my contact information, also send out Holly DeMuro's information.
Okay, right.
Staff, you copy her on emails. She'll come down the hall and make sure I got back to you. We sit down once or twice a week and go through emails that she was copied on, and she makes sure I get back to people. So that's the way to do that. Don't tell everybody that, though, just people I like, okay? So you guys can know that.
You got it. We really value your time and respect the work you're doing. We're excited about it here on the ground of Barnegat Bay. We want one of these plans for all 37 towns. So we're in your back pocket. We can write letters. We have people from all the towns. So let's keep it going, everybody. Thank you so much for everyone's time. Karen Walser was a great presentation. We're going to share all of your information as well. And we thank everyone for joining us tonight. Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.